10 mental, emotional mastery principles. Number one, every human being seeks progress, but it's not just personal progress. It's moving the lives of others forward as well. All of us want that. All of us feel incredible when we serve people. We seek progress across the board. I'm talking health, I'm talking wealth, I'm talking relationships, personally and professionally, and any other category of life you can think of. Number two, to make the biggest progress, you gotta face the biggest issue. And what most people do is they face every other issue except the main issue. They push that main issue under the rug and they focus on every other thing on their to-do list, instead of focusing on that big issue. Because when you move the biggest issue out of the way, you free up the most real estate in your brain. The third, if you look at what people call issues, stresses, struggles, obstacles, challenges, if you peel all those labels and layers really away, what you'll find is fear sitting beneath it. Fear sits at the center of every problem. This is what I call unconscious fears. These are the fears that you've labeled as something else. We also have conscious fears, right? Some of you you're aware that you're afraid of speaking in public. You're aware that you have a fear of, the cold. But some of us don't even recognize that we have a fear. We might even deny that the fears even exist. We don't even want to associate with the word. But like it or not, it's there. And it serves as the leverage point if you know how to use it properly. Fourth is FOTU, fear of the unknown. The idea is many psychologists and most human beings on the planet, when you ask them what they're afraid of, they'll tell you that they're afraid of the unknown. It's fear of the unknown or fear of uncertainty. You can't actually fear something you don't have information about or experiences in your mind. In other words, to have an emotion, to actually generate an emotion, there's got to be some substance in your mind. So if your son came up to you and you said, "Hey, what's with the big smile on your face?" It can't be for no reason. He or she's going to say, "We're going to the beach tomorrow." Ah, that's why you're so happy. That's why you can't sleep. Our emotions require substance in the mind. Point number 5 is that if we don't fear the unknown, then we fear what? The known. The known is the past. What human beings fear above all fears is not the mystery of tomorrow, but the history of yesterday. How is it that our past is the birthplace of our fears? It's very simple mathematics, really. Anything you subjectively label as negative, you live in conscious or unconscious fear of it repeating. Because when you've labeled it as negative, the brain has stored it as an unwanted experience, and so you naturally avoid it. You're just avoiding things because they resemble things you've experienced. The only way to really move your life forward is to face your biggest fear. When you're triggered by another human being or by an event, it has nothing to do with the human being. It has nothing to do with the event that you have in the future, in the near future, a few moments ahead, but before you step on stage, or in a month when you have this board meeting or something. It has nothing to do with the event or the people. It has everything to do with what they remind you of. They're just re-triggering your past. Number 7, our events that we've experienced in the past, we've either experienced firsthand. If we've experienced them firsthand, we call them direct fears. And if we've experienced them secondhand, in other words, we've witnessed someone go through something, we've heard about it, we've watched it, okay, this becomes an indirect fear. I'll give you an example. If you're afraid of swimming, if you're afraid of being in the water, and you had a previous experience where you're nearly drowned, you have a direct fear. It's your firsthand experience that's the source of your fear. If you witness someone nearly drown, watch someone nearly drown, heard about someone really drowned, read about someone nearly drowning, and then you have a fear, it's called an indirect fear. It's borrowed in a sense. I had one guy say to me, Oudi, you know what? Since you told me that, I never realized this, but I actually fear the water because I remember at age 4, check this out, I was hiding behind the lazy boy and I watched my parents watching a Jaws movie. That was his source incident, what we call the source of his fear. Okay, first of all, the fear of the unknown I said it's a disempowering concept in psychology because there's nothing you can do about it, right? You have a presentation next week and I say, what are you afraid of? And you say, I don't know. So there's nothing you can do. You can't prepare. You got to just ignore the lizard, right? Ignore the lizard brain and just change your perception about, okay, it's not fear, it's excitement, and get on stage. Not a bad approach. However, you haven't dealt with the root of it, the real root of your fear, which is the past. So, although you can't, this is point number 8, although you can't change people and you can't change the past, you can change the effect they have on you and you can change how you respond. And the only way you do that is by rewriting your past. Because when you change the narrative and you change the story about your past, you rewrite your future. So if anyone here wants to rewrite their future, wants to break that glass ceiling, you got to go back to the past and rewrite your history. To make the biggest difference in your life, you got to face the biggest issue in your life currently, which requires you to go back to its source. But I can't remember it. Unless you have amnesia or brain damage, I don't buy it. Because your brain, from research out of Oxford, your brain has something called anti-memory. So not only do you have the memory of the experience that you've labeled as negative, but you have the other pieces of the puzzle, the positive aspects of that memory that's stored as anti-memory. Without getting too technical, your memory is electrical chemical reactions in the brain that store a memory. Think of it like a picture in your past, a puzzle, but it's incomplete. Your anti-memory is the opposite of electrochemical reactions that are occurring in the brain that captures what you were unconscious to. So you were conscious of the negative aspects, and that's why you labeled it as a negative event, and that's why you have a fear of it repeating, but your brain very beautifully and magically captures the positive elements, the positive pieces of that puzzle. And if you can put them together, you can complete your perspective. That's how you rewrite your story. Point number 10, to awaken your anti-memory, which are the positive aspects. You got to question your questions. Your questions might be related to this event. Why did this happen to me? Right? Why me? Why then? Why from them? Those are all the wrong questions. The wrong questions take you in the wrong direction. It won't fuel progress. It'll keep you stuck where you are. And if you keep asking the same questions, I want you to think of it like watering a tree that you want to cut down. The more you water it, the stronger it grows and the more difficult it becomes to chop down. You go back to the past and you just ask yourself one simple question, and it's a tough question because it sits over here in your blind spot. You can't see it, just like when you're driving in your car, you can't see that car in your blind spot. But the question is, and you don't have to have the answer, you just have to entertain the question. The question is, what was the advantage to me of experiencing that? As difficult as it sounds, and I've worked with some very, very difficult cases. I worked with a 36-year-old cancer patient just last week. Imagine me asking her that question. And that is how you awaken your anti-memory. That's how you complete your perspective. That's how you change your story. That's how you rewrite your past. And that's how you rewrite your future. this is how you'll make future progress. You face your fear, you move forward, you face your fear.